is Hawaii News Now at 5.
First at 5, a Haleiwa housing project stalls at the City Council. As our Dylan Anchetta reports, lawmakers deferred action today on a proposal for an apartment complex by developer Andy Anderson.
After months of protest and hours of testimony, opponents of Bill 37 are breathing a sigh of relief. The measure proposes to rezone some land in Haleiwa from agricultural to urban. On Wednesday, the Honolulu City Council sent it back to the Zoning and Planning Committee.
I fear that these changes signal a misplaced approach to addressing our housing crisis.
More than 800 pieces of testimony were submitted to the council opposing the measure because the zoning change would allow the Haleiwa Backyards project to advance. The plan calls for 150 two-bedroom rentals behind the Ace Hardware, and about a third of them would be affordable. Area residents worry how more homes would impact traffic in the already congested area. Many of them had a hard time evacuating during the recent tsunami warning.
It's scary. It's really scary. It's the reality of how really stuck we are.
If this development were in place, it has very limited options for evacuation. It would have made the evacuation of Haleiwa even more of a nightmare.
The recent tsunami warning showed the need for better communication and traffic management, not a reason to freeze all new housing in these areas. The real disaster happening daily is housing displacement.
Carpenters testified in support of the project during the council's meeting. They argue Haleiwa Backyards would provide more jobs and needed housing for locals.
This project represents smart infill growth, not sprawl. It's a reasonable, responsible use of urban land that is not actively farmed.
Developer DG Andy Anderson was at Wednesday's meeting but declined a request for comment. Dylan Anchetta, Hawaii News Now.